say their names. And if not, like I told Lenard before, keep it on the playground. My sweet babies. Did you guess who I was earlier? Monique, one of the fiercest queens of comedy. Well, people were asking her thoughts on the writer's strike, and to sum it up for you, she essentially said, my sweet babies, y'all are late. I've been doing this. Okay, so in an Instagram post, she made it clear that she's been verbally striking for years and was met with very little celebrity support. She also said that she and Countess Vaughn have teamed up to file a lawsuit and get the money they feel they are owed from the Parkers. The Parkers was a hit, y'all. I used to love that show so much. So please run them their coin, honey. Okay, so speaking of using AI to not replace people. Apparently Google is building an AI tool for news publishers that will supposedly be able to generate headlines and articles. Let me tell y'all something, as a trained journalist, I can almost assure you this will not end well. Google says the idea is to help journalists enhance their work and productivity. I'm all for tech growth and progression, but some things need humans behind it for accountability reasons. Y'all remember when Takeoff from the Migos passed away, right? And they used a picture of Offset, and the entire rap and Atlanta community and hip hop community and just anybody with common sense was upset. And then they blamed it, the people behind it blamed it on the tech that they use not being able to appropriately distinguish black people. As someone with a master's degree in educational technology, I can definitely say these AI tools pose threats to being discriminatory against black and brown bodies because these tools are merely a reflection of society. Google says the project is not meant to replace journalists. Yeah, sure. I believe that Google isn't trying to take my job. Wink, wink. I don't want them to kick me out of the algorithm. You know those girls who know every single thing about sports and can keep up with the likes of Stephen A. Smith and them? Well, I'm not one of them, okay? But what I do know is that women-led sports don't get enough credit and barely enough funding, especially compared to the guys. So when I heard about this new interactive mobile game specifically designed for the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup, I had to give it some airtime. The Advocate Channel's Ricker Damagalia has more.
Matchday Challenge FIFA Women's World Cup 2023 edition has taken the pitch, hoping to score with football fans. The gameplay lets you earn collectible digital cards of the athletes participating in the cup.
It's really a chance for fans and players around the world to play and unlock digital cards of their favorite FIFA Women's World Cup stars. And they do this by testing their fan knowledge and by predicting the outcome of matches. The fun part, of course, is not only do you test your own knowledge, you get to challenge your friend to really see who has the best knowledge and compete for the best spot on the leaderboard.
The interactive experience is free to play on mobile devices or any internet-connected device at challenge.matchday.com. Lining up a free kick in Hollywood, I'm Rick Damagella.
The 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup runs through August 20th. Are you familiar with the saying, this heat is giving me a headache? Well, if you've ever lived in the South, then you've probably definitely heard your family member say that. It's estimated that at least 39 million Americans live with migraine attacks, okay? My mom is one of them. Health experts say that very hot weather makes it more painful and causes even more migraines. I know, right? So the Advocate Channel's Mandy Gaither spoke with some health experts to gather some tips on how we can manage the migraines in this heat.
Changes in barometric pressure, extremely high temperatures, and the threat of dehydration.
You put that all together, and patients who suffer from migraines will suddenly see an increase in headache or migraine frequency during these events.
Dr. Ahmad Estamalik with Cleveland Clinic says those with constant chronic migraines will most likely require daily medication, injections, or a procedure. But for those who get them less frequently, you can manage migraines by knowing your triggers and avoiding them. and stay hydrated, as Damalik says that alone may eliminate the possibility of a migraine. Finally, turn to rescue medicine as soon as symptoms start, but he cautions not to take those medications too many times a week.
We usually recommend no more than 2 to 3 times, just because for those patients who have migraines, they run the risk of developing what we call rebound headaches if they use abortive medications too often.
And if you're struggling with heat-related migraines, Damalik says to seek care.
The disorder, despite being very, very prevalent, remains underdiagnosed, misdiagnosed, and often undertreated as well. So again, patients don't need to suffer. Talk to your healthcare provider, your neurologist, or your headache specialist, because there's a lot out there that can make a difference.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Thanks, Mandy. I'm gonna make sure I send this clip to my mom. She really struggles with a lot of migraines, so. Youth is wasted on the young. Have you ever heard that saying? Well, listen, aging is a blessing, all right? An organization known as SAGE is doing their part to make sure we know that and that we don't leave anyone behind as we continue to progress. I spoke with their reps to learn more about their mission. So now SAGE, it's an organization that specifically focuses on LGBTQIA plus elders. And I really like it because I feel like it's almost combating ageism, right, in a way. And one of my best friends in the whole wide world is 65. Like, seriously, she's one of my best friends. I swear, we argue like sisters. Sometimes she's my mom, sometimes she's my grandma, but it's like at the end of the day, we always consider each other best friends. So just tell me more about SAGE and why it's so important.
Yeah, so SAGE is the world's largest and oldest LGBTQ focused organization dedicated to improving the lives of LGBTQ elders and caregivers. That's an important thing to share as we're moving forward in age. We often need caregivers, and that's why SAGE does what we do. We work with elders both in New York and nationwide. And it is, like you said, important. Your connections with your elders, your connections, friends, age is just a number, and ageism is easy to combat when you realize we have so much more in common. And I know we're doing some great programs here in New York State and New York City, specifically with the mayor's office and the older adults cabinet, to help interconnect the community and create intergenerational programming. So that's kind of what SAGE is focused on. And I know Michelle is more nationally, I'm more focused in New York City.
That brings me to my next question. So I was going to say, now, Darcy, from our research, I see that you're all about outreach and bringing people in. And Michelle, you're all about working across the global international scale in the growth and services type of way. Can both of you, and Michelle, you can go first, start by just explaining a little bit about how you landed at this specific role at this company?
Sure, I'm happy to take that. So I am the executive director of Sage Venture. Sage Venture is the social enterprise at Sage, and it is really going to be forward-looking and figuring out how do we innovate for LGBTQ elders on a national scale? How do we look at the range of services for LGBTQ folks and widen those services, deepen those services, and have a bigger impact so that there are more affirming and inclusive services for our LGBTQ elders? So I feel really fortunate to be in this role because we already have a successful social enterprise called Sage Care, which focuses on training, consulting, and credentialing a wide range of long-term care facilities and home health service providers on how to be LGBTQ culturally competent. And we know that that's going to become even more important as the estimates right now are 7 million LGBTQ folks will be over the age of 50 by 2030. So we have a real commitment to making sure that we're not only thinking around how do we create spaces that are affirming and inclusive, but how do we look at the markets today serving folks that are aging and make sure that LGBTQ lived experiences are prioritized in those services.
Because the goal is to definitely get there, right? We all want to get to the point to where we hope that there's an organization like Sage for us as we continue to matriculate, and live in our identity. So I just love the organization. What about you, Darcy? How did you end up in your role?
Exactly that. I was looking as a trans woman for what resources will be available for me when I get old. The old statistic of trans women life expectancy being only 35 is becoming a thing of the past, thankfully, even with the growing hate in certain states. And the focus on being able to provide inclusivity, high quality programming in New York City really spoke to me. Coming from nursing homes originally and long term care, it was from a for profit focused on just not quality metrics, but profit over people. And Sage really puts the people first. And that's what attracted me to Sage.
I prefer to say seasoned sassy somethings. It's just something about saying the word old sometimes that rub people the wrong way. So I'm always like, you're just a little seasoned sassy something. Who doesn't like their meat a little extra seasoned? I'm from the South, so that's how we get down. So what is the number one complaint you hear among, your members?
For us in New York City, it's a lot of loneliness, a lot of social isolation. I'm from the South myself. I'm from Florida. Not a huge shout out to Florida right now, but you know what? LGBTQ folks still live there. We have great programming in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. And we're seeing the same thing, both in Miami-Dade, Broward counties, as well as New York City, that social isolation and fear of going out in public is getting larger and larger.
Michelle, what about you? What is the number one complaint you may hear among your members?
I would say there are really two, and similar to Darcy, that's a running theme as well, the isolation and the loneliness. I would say first and foremost is providers that are LGBTQ culturally competent and really knowing who those providers are and being able to access that. If we think about the elders that Sage is really serving, there's been a lifetime of discrimination for an LGBTQ identity. And so most of our participants are really trying to think, how can they minimize that as they're aging and seeking elder care services? The second one would be not wanting to be detached from their community. We know that the LGBTQ community, that is how we thrive. We thrive with our people. We thrive with our communities. Those are the folks that have lifted us up in the harshest moments. And so really wanting able to sustain that for folks as they're aging becomes really important to make sure folks can age in place and age with their friends and their networks and the people that have been there for them through the hard times.
Okay, I definitely see another interview in the future because y'all, listen, I'm a true journalist, and so many of your answers, I'm like, oh, I wish we had more time because let's dive into that. Let's dive into this. Let's dive into that. So I hope to have you guys back soon. And listen, this work that you guys are doing is just so important. So thank you so much for, talking about your journey with Sage and speaking with me today. To learn more about Sage and how you can get involved, head over to sageusa.care. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know anything at all. All right, see you next time, girls, and thwirls.